Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two you've read. I'm your host Scott and I'm not alone, Toby's here too. This episode we're talking about Rat by Stephen King, and it's the last in his collection of If It Bleeds. It's going to be a fairly spoiler heavy episode, but if that's okay with you, continue on and I'll see you on the other side.
I haven't got a cold. I just was talking a lot last night.
Oh, mingling?
So, yeah, well, yeah. Date.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How was it?
It was good. Yeah, it went really well. It was a very high pitch, wasn't it? You good? Yeah, it was good. Second date.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So.
This wasn't the lady we previously talked about.
No, not the doom and gloom lady.
Okay,
no,
yeah.
No, definitely not. Yeah, she's consigned to history. No, this was another lady who goes by the name of JC on Bumble. Really lovely lady, very intelligent, very she's cool. Did an escape room.
Oh, nice. How was that?
Amazing. I tell you what, do a samurai escape room with a Chinese woman, and all the clues are really easy.
Oh no.
She could read Chinese. What was normally it's geared towards like a Western audience.
So it's a lot of puzzle solving is figuring out words.
Yeah. And she's just like, oh, that means this means this. I was just like, all right, cool. I've got this. I'll just throw the beanbag at the thing that I meant to do, and you can do the rest.
I do like a good spoiler. Like I think it's an episode of Star Trek where like they're in the hologram room and they're starting like a big Sherlock Holmes mystery, and the robot just goes, I have deduced he is the killer, and the key that was hidden all along is right here, like at the very, I guess what's it, Knives Out 2
yeah
same thing, where it's just like I got it like before the game's even started. It's like you're using your advantage to sort of spoil.
That's exactly it. But yeah, it was a really good escape room, very enjoyable. We got out. We technically got out. We asked for a few clues along the way. There was one particular puzzle that we swear to God was broken. You had these scale things, and you had to weigh up. You had blood vials, and then you had to put the cures on the other side and weigh them up, and that gave you the numbers to unlock a thing. And we just did it over and over again, and we couldn't get it right. And we got the first two numbers, which was like a certain code. The last two numbers we couldn't get because the numbers were too high, and we couldn't get the right amount of weight. So we were determined or 100% certain that we were missing one of the blood vials that would have made the numbers up to a certain given weight. So we couldn't solve it. So we had to get the guy that's the voice of God to give us the actual code.
Oh, okay.
But the second we clicked that, we were just like bam, 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 bam through the last puzzles and out the door with 2 seconds to spare, apparently. But I'm pretty sure they massaged the time because it did.
Yeah, they can. I feel like they watch you, and if you're like close to the end.
Yeah. No, this is exactly it. There's another one where you had to turn these dials and you had to line this picture up, but there was 2 pictures, and one of them was like these red lines, and one of them was an actual picture of a samurai holding things, and it was the red lines you had to line up and not the picture. But you don't. It's like there was nothing to tell you to anywhere in the whole game to tell you to line the red lines up and not the actual picture. So I'm trying to get the. Yeah, that was a bit frustrating. But
it's nice when that clicks that you're on the wrong path. I don't know if you ever play Codebreaker or Mind, and you have to sort of figure out like what color these buttons are in.
Yeah.
But it's this thing where you're so sure you have the right color, the wrong order, and you've been going for ages, and you're running it, and then it just clicks that you've just got on the wrong path. Mm-hmm. It is really satisfying when you get those game clicks that like a little light bulb goes on.
Yeah.
And it all falls into place. They are satisfying as hell.
That's exactly it. But no, she was really good at it. It was a very enjoyable time.
Third date, perhaps? On the horizon?
Yeah. Well, she asked me like, how long does it take me to work out whether somebody has got a future or not? And I was like, well, I've only been on a couple of dates, and my first relationship, we didn't really do any dates, and the second relationship was the first day.
And so then, really quick.
Yeah, she's like, oh, so
by your standards, she's left that in the cold.
Yeah, but for her, it's like 5 or 6. So I said, right, okay, let's get to the 6th date and see what happens then.
Let's knock those out. What are you doing
Yeah,
tomorrow, the day after, the day after?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it sounds like it's going well so far. Good on you.
Yeah, she's lovely. Really, really. We'll see. She's very intelligent. Like probably too intelligent for me. What do you mean?
Oh, no, it's just
joking. Yeah. But yeah, no, she's very, very driven, high achiever. But it'll be good to be in the vicinity of someone like that, and maybe it will push me that extra yard that I currently don't push myself.
Very cool.
Honestly.
Keep us updated.
Yes. How about you,
Scott? Me, I'm on sort of cloud 9 these days. I'm pretty good. No real reason. I've been like here in Toronto over a year, but my year work review sort of came up. And it was just like a reminder that a whole year's gone by. And sometimes it feels like it's been 2-3 years. Sometimes it feels like it's been a few months. I'm one of those people that feels like they're a new guy for excessively long.
Right, yeah.
Like I still kind of feel like I want to go, hey, what's the password to the fridge thing? It's like, dude, you've been here like a year. You should know. That sort of thing. Like I'm quite quiet at work.
Right.
I'm just very head down, headphones on, quite introverts. Like I'm polite, but I don't quite muck in. I should do, and I used to, I guess. I don't know where it came, but and last night I saw a play.
Oh wow.
And by the time this goes out, given our delays in editing getting out, it's probably gone. But if you're in Toronto, check out Weird Tales.
Oh, cool.
Super fun. It was like a puppet play. This guy really got in like angles and fun, inventive ways of I don't know, it's really hard to explain and sell it. But it was sort of 2 mini plays, one being Metamorphosis for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then one being The Mountain of Madness for about an hour, I would say. And just a one-man play, being like a narrator in character, puppet characters, spoken characters, giant puppets, little puppets, finger puppets. Like he had this GoPro with a projection so he could get the puppets like really like frantically in your face, considering
that's amazing.
The biggest puppet, when I say big puppets, the biggest one was your classic like size of a football head.
Yeah.
And the smallest one was like a finger puppet.
Oh wow.
Here we go. I don't know how I get myself into these situations. It was I thought it was going to be quite campy, but it wasn't at all. But it was quite I think I'm using this term right, like vaudevillian boardwalk, like a lot of sort of card tricks and sort of like interversed with magic tricks, very weaved into the story. Like the narrator was sort of mirroring what was going on with Gregor in the Metamorphosis. At one point, he did this sort of play on like his eye. He like scooped his eye out, and he was like popping it back in his cheek, and then came out of his mouth, and then putting it in his ear and coming out the other ear. So the second play involved a lot of card tricks. It was on the guise of like he was talking to us as if we were professors, and he was trying to explain why we shouldn't go on this Arctic expedition, as per like the story of Mountain of Madness is being retold by someone. And so there was a lot of sort of like card tricks, and so he sort of had a few involvements like, you sir, what are you thinking of? The Ace of Spades. Well, I mean more interwoven than that. But so it was a small audience and a small stage. It was 3 rows long, and it was all pretty flat, so a very small, intimate stage.
Oh, cool.
And he basically pointed and went, "You, sir, I need an assistant."
That's me. I am there.
He pointed. You didn't get to choose or put your hand up. He chose. And I'm thinking, well, do you chase the multitudes, So I point at myself and I look around and I go, me? He says, yes, sir. You pointing at yourself, looking around, asking if it's anyone else. So I'm on the aisle seat and it's only 3 rows long. So I step forward sort of onto the stage.
Right.
Can I flash back about an hour before? We sort of tried to make a night out. We made a night out of it. So we went for a nice meal and we went Mexican, and I just got something that was bigger than I thought. And because it was a small stage, it was those foldable chairs. And I was just worried about indigestion and I was just feeling stuffed. So I undid my belt because there's no sitting back reclining. And it wasn't enough. I could just feel my tummy pinching. I'm almost 40, listeners. I've got a bit of a beer belly. So I undid my full pants thinking it's pitch black ish. I'm on the back row. No one's paying attention to me. Like I do it in the cinema sometimes. So I stand up and I realize not just my belt, but my entire effing pants are undone. And I think everyone's turned to look at me because I've stood up. I can't start filling with my pants now. It's going to draw attention to it. So I walk onto stage, just in my head thinking, any second now, my pants could just fall down. And so I'm sort of holding them through my shirt, trying to look casual, thinking if he asked me for both my hands, what do I do? How did I get myself into this situation? He says to me, what are you doing? Not you, and you don't need to come on stage. And he stays completely in character. Not you, or it's always the young ones who are eager. I'll use you later. And he was basically talking to the guy in front of me.
Right.
Because everyone is sort of like pointing at themselves, looking around.
Yeah.
And I'm just like gobsmacked. A, that somehow, I'm never taking my pants off. I'm never doing that again. B, I just walked onto stage mid-performance. And he didn't even ask you to walk on stage. It was just like, pick a card from the seat. That's I was literally in shock for like, I sort of zoned out the play for 5-10 minutes because I was just like, did that just happen? Oh my God, what the... I'd literally just walked onto stage with my pants undone for no reason. This is what happens when you chase the multitudes, people. Don't live life to the max. Sit back and let someone else enjoy someone else living life to the max. Because...
that's so good. That is so funny.
What the F? I don't know how.
Not you, sir. Oh.
I mean, he was totally cool. Like, he made a joke out of it. He stayed in character.
Yeah.
To be fair, I asked my partner afterwards, I was like, did you think he was talking to me? She said, yes, I did. Did you think I was supposed to go on stage? She said, yes, I did. She might just be being kind to sort of not give me social anxiety. Like, next time I'm going to play, they go, can I have an audience member? And I go, we're leaving. I ain't going nowhere near that. But I always like when I see a cool performance, especially live music and theatre, it really makes me wish I had something like that in my life.
Right.
Like that you could have the, I don't know, the confidence and the skill and the commitment and the commitment to the idea that you can like write a play, refine it, maybe get some actors in, some props, hire out a studio, and then just do that. Just put that on. Like, this is a one man show I watched, and he clearly just sort of, I don't know his history, I don't know anything about him. I don't even know his name. But it's just called Weird Tales, and it's based in Toronto. And I just thought, like, man, like, that's no matter what this guy does in life, he'll always have done that.
Yeah.
And I always get a weird ping of, I wish I had that kind of notion to be able to be in a band and to have the thrill of a live performance, to put out an art that is just you're there and you witnessed it and it's gone. It's for you, the audience only.
I think when it comes to going back to being on stage and doing that, having done a performing arts course, there's a real sort of joy in providing that type of entertainment or writing something that you then put on stage and perform. I've done monologues, written massive monologues, and then delivered them on stage to an audience and all that sort of thing. And it's really challenging. It's wonderfully fulfilling when you complete it and you come off stage. The stuff beforehand in the wings when you're waiting to go on stage is terrifying. And it was part of the reason why I never pursued performing arts and trying to be a theatrical actor and stuff like that, was because it was just absolutely terrifying. And a lot of that comes down to anything that you want to take under or undertake, that's not directly told or work. It's something off your own back. It's the fear of failure, the fear of not getting where you want to go with something, or worrying that it's not going to be good enough. You've got an idea that you believe in, but you don't think it's going to be good enough. And that's something that a lot of writers struggle with, much like Drew.
Yes,
short story we're going to be talking about today. Thank you very much. Good night. That's the fourth and final short story from the book by Stephen King, If It Bleeds.
Rat.
Rat.
Sorry, you're going to deliver it like a...
No, that's it.
Quick note, Tobe. Have you seen the cover with the cat?
I have, yes.
There's a rat.
Mm-hmm.
I would say hiding in plain sight. Oh, you knew about the rat.
Well, it's the whiskers and the face, is it
Yeah.
not? Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's like a cat and a rat
Yeah,
merged
I
together.
never saw the rat until recently. Like I read I was reading and someone said about it. I was, that's like one of those like Silence of the Lambs.
I can't say I've noticed it, but when you pick it, as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, yeah.
No, what, you didn't know about it until that moment?
No, not. It just it makes sense. Like thinking about it.
If you don't know what we're talking about, just the cover is a cat, and I've always thought it was a bit naff. But hiding
the
right there, the nose and nostrils of the cat is the head of a mouse or a rat. It looks like a mouse. Just a little something that I blew my little mind.
So yeah, the fourth story. It's about what? How long? 200? Would you say? You've read it more
300s? Yeah,
more recently than I have.
2.5 maybe.
Yeah, I'll start with a quick synopsis. So the synopsis for Rat is: Drew Larson, a writer of an acclaimed short story, has given himself over to academia because every time he tries to turn a good idea into a novel, things go seriously bad, mentally, physically, or both. But his latest concept, a Western thriller, is gangbusters. That's a very Stephen King word, isn't it?
Gangbusters.
Gangbusters. And he goes out, to an old family cabin in the woods to get the novel done. When storms, insecurities, and sickness hit, Drew strikes a sinister bargain with a rodent.
Nice.
And that is the synopsis. And then we've got our next section. If there's nothing you want to say before I go into our review roundup.
Toby's roundup reviews.
Review roundup. Positives. Justin Tate. At first, it seems like a mashup of The Shining and The Stand, which would have been super awesome because that's basically how I feel right now. But then it takes a sharp turn towards Richard Matheson territory and his Button. A solid creeper overall, despite being two halves and not quite a whole, reminds me of King's younger days and the stories that appear in Night Shift and Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Subtle references, cleverly tied in the 3 previous novellas, not enduring by any means, but top-notch entertainment. 4 out of 5.
Nice.
David Putnam. Rat is back to the standard King fare. I enjoyed it. Stayed up late into the night to finish it. This is a well-used trope that King breathes new life into. And then we have a couple of negatives, which, to be honest, I found quite difficult to find for this short story.
Oh.
There wasn't many. What a disappointment. I just don't get it. These are some of King's most underwhelming and boring stories I've ever read. It's still easy reading and his style is ever present, which is good, but all I can say. Rat, 3 stars. Now, this is more of a classic King, a good story, but too long for what it is. Would have been better as a short story.
Well, is it not? Wow, is it?
That's what
you know
reckon.
My thoughts on shorts.
Yeah.
Beef it up.
Lucy. Although I really liked when King writes about writers, I found this last story to be simultaneously grotesque and hilarious. Also, reading about a snot-clotted bandana during a pandemic gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Yes.
Belinda. Short stories / novellas are my favourite Stephen King format. Mr. Harrigan's phone is generally cringy. The Life of Chuck is something you'd expect is generally cringy. The Life of Chuck is something you'd expect a young art student to write. If it bleeds, is solid, okay. I gave up on Rat when the inherent sexism got too much.
Oh.
Really, and let's make this person's name up. Peter, really disappointing. Rat, 1 out of 5. I said to myself, if the rat in this story starts talking and Ratatouille's the MC writer into writing a good book, I'm giving you the whole collection 1 star. Well, hands up in the air. Yeah, told you so.
Oh.
So yeah, there's our thoughts. Yeah.
Some cool things to unpack. Some stuff what's the sexism? I can't really think of the sexism. I guess there's a lot of expectations for his wife.
That's the only thing I could put it down to.
Interesting. We're gonna have to get one of them females on our podcast at some point.
Yeah,
give us a female, especially on King. Pick maybe one that's like a classic.
So anyway, what I liked about this was that frequently throughout these 3 stories that we've reviewed through so far, you've mentioned the monkey paw. And not knowing what the monkey paw was until you started talking about it, but my understanding is it's like a Faustian parable of like you give something with one hand and then that hand will then take away and then some.
Just trick wishes.
Yes, trick wishes.
Like
so this story does
get exactly what you want, but it's turned on its head and grotesque.
Tapped straight into that very heavily. Is basically that parable.
Does it even get a mention? Does at one point it's either in the afterward where he's talking about it, which is about 4 lines. He's got about 2 pages of where the writing comes from. He says, where is it? Let me jump ahead to Rat. I have absolutely no clue where this story came from. All I know is that it felt like a malign fairy tale to me, and it gave me a chance to write a little bit about the mysteries of the imagination and how that translates to page. That's all he says on Rat.
Yeah.
Come on, give me something.
No, I think there's definitely stuff to unpack in that though. We have. I don't know if you want to go. If you've got anything you want to say or bring into it. Yeah, just the idea of Drew having had this small hit and then constantly trying to write something else, bigger, better, and repeat that success and make a living out of it, but constantly procrastinating and letting things get in the way. This story really taps into what it's like to be a writer, what it's like to let things get in the way, what it's like to have things stop you repeatedly. Procrastination, like he literally takes himself away from the outside world because he doesn't believe he's going to be able to do it where he is, because there's too many things in stopping him. Procrastinating, takes himself to a wood cabin in the woods and then puts to procrastinate for the first week or so of being up there. So yeah, I just think that what it does really well is it looks at what it is, a lot of the pitfalls that people that like to write face, like you and me ourselves have faced.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the thing that is sort of great about this book, but also I guess detracts from liking the main character, is it's almost like it's what it's like for an amateur to write, like a non-writer, because this guy is not young. He has a job. He has like a wife and kids. He's basically a life win. He even has a cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
Right. He's not a struggling writer. I think I've talked before about like there's a difference, I guess, between like someone who hasn't made it and they're like unwilling to compromise and it drives them mad. Whereas this guy has spent a life of compromise. And there's a certain sense of I've missed my window, but like you didn't dedicate to this.
Yes.
And we do kind of have reasons, but he has a separate life to writing. Life carries on without it for him. That we've talked before when we talked about Tick Tick Boom, that sort of biographical thing. I do love the sort of the romanticness, I suppose, of the starving artist who won't get a job because it's like this is their calling, they're born to do it, and they're not that. It's about the art, not the money.
Yes, and there's exactly that.
The side of this novel where it's not about that. It's basically, I would argue, about his ego or the regret of not chasing that.
Yeah.
Not of having had that.
Well, he's chased it, but every time he does chase it, it becomes too much, and it gives too much because like he says, it
starts to fall apart, huh?
Yeah, and it's happened to him previously 2 times. I think it alludes to in this story. Like it almost affected his family. It affected his personal life. It affected.
Basically, had a breakdown, no?
Yeah.
And so his wife is very apprehensive when he runs home and says, I got an idea for a novel. Like a short, like a novel. Like, oh shit. It won't be like last time. Like the first thing he says is it won't be like last time. Like they're still kind of recovering and he can't be trusted. Are you an American Horror Story fan?
I haven't seen much of it, no. I watched the first season.
It's like, I don't know, season 7 or 8 or something. It's a short one. It's only 5 episodes, but this struggling screenwriter moves to this little area. And so it would give you the gist of the premise is like there's a drug. And if you take it and you're artistically inclined, if you have talent, you will knock it out of the park. You will gangbuster it. Yeah. If you don't have talent, you will basically turn into a mindless zombie vampire.
Wow.
It's American Horror Story, we're going to say.
Yeah.
would you put your money where your mouth is that you have the talent? You just it's everything else working against you, the time, the financial pressure to carry on with work, or distractions. I don't know. I thought that was like just a nice setup. It's not the best series in the world, but it is only 5 episodes.
Right.
I don't know. Sorry, it doesn't tie in greatly.
No, yeah. It taps into that whole monkey ball thing, doesn't it?
I guess the amount of I listen to so many writers' podcasts, more than I write or anything, and it's I think one was saying like, don't quit work to write if you're not writing. Like, don't think that taking a month off means you're right if you're not already writing.
Yeah.
If you're not making the time for it now, then you'll just procrastinate and you won't make the most of a month not working. And if you financially support it, go for it. But don't spin your life around on a gamble if you're not already doing everything you can and getting somewhere. Because
that's exactly it. And I think in On Writing, Stephen King alludes to the fact that he has a schedule and he sticks to that schedule every single day, which is why he is so prolific. And it's part of the reason why people think he's got ghostwriters is because this is a guy that's in the latter years and he's just boshing out novels left, right, and centre still.
It's amazing, no?
It's his schedule is he sits down and he writes a certain amount of pages or a certain amount of words every single day, and until that's done, he doesn't leave the computer. And that could be an hour it takes, or it could be all day. But that is the bespoke number of words that he has to write every single day.
It's what's the longest you've ever written? You reckon you've ever sat and consciously typed down?
Would it be for the month of May 2020 when we started this? That month I decided I was going to write 600 to 1,000 words a day, and I wrote 600 to 1,000 words a day. And by the end of it, I got, I had a good chunk. It was about 600 words a day. So I ended up with 14,700 words or something like that.
What's that in pages? Sorry,
I don't know. You've got the manuscript.
Oh, true. Yeah.
The ogre who thought it was a gnome.
So that was like 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a lot, no?
Yeah, it is. It's hard work. It was very difficult. At times I found it really easy. Other times I found it very challenging. And I found that I got to the point where I'd envisioned in my head, and then I struggled, and I haven't been back since.
This is what I'm going to talk about too, because within the novel, so Drew basically, I would argue, abandons his wife. I don't know. So very much drops it on her. There's I guess a nice scene where he's picking up supplies, and it did feel very like some pandemic thoughts.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah,
basically shakes a sick man's hand. In this case, it's super important. Like it's not really arguable that this is what happened. That guy actually died, it turns out. There's some nice thoughts on the person he's talking to, like a week or two later, says like he just didn't go to the hospital. He was just too proud. And I think that's a really common cause. Not a common cause, but like the amount, I think, particularly in males who don't get things checked up, who don't go to the doctor. It's a crazy high number. Because you're just not bothered, you think it doesn't matter, or you're like that, you're just too proud.
You'll shake it off.
Away. Yeah. He gets a bit aggressive now. He is pretty. He's not the most likable character.
No, definitely not.
Like this guy, he does rip into. He is calling him a yokel. Like he's pretty grossed out by him.
Yeah, from the get go, it comes across that way. Yeah, totally.
And so he gets there, and I guess he does procrastinate a bit, but he does clap down. He does get off to a rocking start. That's what we all do.
Yeah.
And then
very much so.
Approximately within the first third, there's that trail off, and I think that's so common. That's the most common thing of like unfinished books are just rocking start, fell apart basically after the start. I'm definitely guilty of that. I am definitely one of those wannabe unsuccessful writers because purely because I haven't finished anything. It doesn't matter. Like I feel like it doesn't matter how bad it is. If it's finished, you can just say you're a writer.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be sold. But I'm not me. I haven't finished anything. Why do you think that is? I think there's a bunch of reasons, huh?
Yeah. For me, it's imagination. I take it as far as I get so far into an idea and think that's really good. I should get this down on paper. And then I start to put it down on paper and I don't ever finish the idea. And then when I get to where I've envisioned, I stumble. And
as far as the initial thought plan came.
And that can be quite far. It can be 14,000, 15,000 words, which is, substantial amount. But it just becomes too much, and I just suddenly panic, or I start to think, actually, what have I written? Is it any good?
Yeah,
is where I'm going to end up going any good?
Oh, self-doubt, huh?
What I needed a rat to come along and give me a wish.
Like, I don't know, there's a sense of, if I keep going, I'm going to finish. If I finish, like, I don't think I'm going to have been a good writer. If I abandon this, I can still tell myself I have talent and I'm a good writer. I just haven't done anything. If I finish it, it will be official. I'm terrible. But what's that saying? Like, the best book unfinished isn't as good as the worst book finished.
Oof. I think that's a saying, but that's a good one if you've just made it.
No, I think it's more pithy, but
right.
Your unplanned novel isn't as good as my terrible, actually written novel.
Yeah, completely. So going back to this monkey paw business and the idea of you're given a promise or a wish, and then you take up that wish, and then the actual payoff is worse than you could possibly imagined. Do you think that holds true within this story?
It's not necessarily that it's worse than what it was in this case, but I feel like there's a moral of the story. If you take the shortcut, you're robbing your own victory.
Right, okay.
And in this case, he's literally marred by his experience.
Yeah.
So with spoiler here, listeners, we're getting spoiler territory. So he gets sick, and there's like a big storm coming in, and he gets sort of stuck in his cabin. And it's like, it's not a frosty cabin, but it is like he's fevering, and it's not like central heated cabin or anything. And then so one night in the storm, I think there's like a shed knocked over. I don't know if that's really happened.
It gets blown over,
But there's a sort of scratching up the door, and it's just this like half dead, half drowned rat. And he just takes pity on it and sort of puts it in by the fire. Of all the things King has done, all his crazy aliens, that feels like the most unrealistic thing. I don't know. What you think? I guess it's not a city rat. It's like a forest rat because he is in a cabin. But I don't know if I would bring a wild rat into my single roomed cabin.
It does go against everything that Drew's been up to that point, the very standoffish, sort of mockery.
Quite a selfish dick.
Yeah, basically.
I guess you could argue he was sick and feverish, so he took pity on the rat because he's in a similar situation.
Or it's not actually true, there's no rat.
There's the spin. And so in the morning, or in the night, this rat's sitting on him. Is it just sitting on his chest? It's like better. Yeah. And it starts chatting to him. And it basically says, do you want a successful novel? I can give that to you, but someone's going to have to die. Crap. But he sort of knows someone who is in like treatment for cancer and who's fairly late middle age.
Does he know that, or does the rat give him that as a way out? That gives him that as a way out, does it not?
It says, I'm going to take someone from you.
Yeah.
So initially he's like, no, of course not. I've got a wife and young kids. He handpicks this character.
Right, okay.
Which is his friend at the university, I think, and someone he sends work, someone he sort of corresponds to about writing. Then he just thinks he's dying anyway. So let's do it.
What loss is there?
Shakes hands with the rat. He chose this old guy. I don't know if he was old. He chose this guy because he was dying. And he does get the energy to write the book. It does go on to sell and be a big hit. Does the guy die? Yes. But
yes, he does.
But it's not just him. Is that right?
Yeah, it's his wife. They die in a horrible car accident.
In a car accident. Boom. So, and then our man just has to sort of live
with the knowledge,
the potential consequences. He does go back, and he kind of finds like a toy rat, a stuffed toy from his kid. So there's a big. This was probably just
back to the cabin. This is
fever hallucination.
Yeah,
maybe. Did you enjoy this novel? this little ditty?
Yes, I did. Just quickly going back to the
Go.
idea of the payoff, or the ending being like Drew is his recompense for the death of these two people that was unexpected. He only expected one of them to die. The second person dies, but we as readers or listeners, readers even don't have any sort of connection to these two characters. They're all off camera, in essence, and their death doesn't really impact us. And I don't know how much it impacts Drew. Yes, the old guy was a friend, but again, his guy was dying, so maybe he was taking him out of the pain that he was experiencing. The guy was retiring, and it was basically endgame for him. It just came a little bit quicker. But Drew doesn't really. He gets the successful novel, he gets all the riches that comes with that, but he decides not to carry on writing due to feeling of
guilt.
Yeah. But that's really the only recompense he gets from making this deal with, in essence, the devil. And do you think that's a good enough payoff, or do you think he should have gotten more? The twist, like Leo normally,
but like
something
I said,
bigger will come from that.
Is that not the twist in the tale? Is in the one thing he thought would be his like success, like the one thing that the unadulterated fiction joy has just been stripped from him.
Yes.
Like I get it. It's like, okay, that's not much considering two people are dead, and if we're saying it's his fault, but it's like the whole point was that he wanted to write, and now it's like the irony of the one joy he had is stripped away. You can argue, sure, I guess, like if we're going to get in very like real world terms, like no, not at all. But I guess your question before we cut out was it the monkey's paw? Was it an undercut wish? And I guess so with the wife dying, and it was like a car crash. It wasn't like he died in his bed. Like I guess he thought he would get away with it in his own head. Like he was going to die. He would die of the cancer.
Yeah.
And he could tell himself that was happening anyway. But I think he basically started going into readmission, maybe, or it was even months later, and he was showing signs, at least I believe, of improvement. And then it was cut out, and his wife died.
Yeah, and he had a good few more years than it was expected.
Did you say someone was comparing it to Matheson's The Box? I think the premise of that is a struggling family financially receive a box from a stranger who basically says, every time you press this, you'll receive, I think at the time a financial amount like $100,000, but someone will die. Someone you don't know will die. And that's the conceit. Like, where are you morally with like, they'll never know it's you per se. Well, so they think. You're literally pressing a button, and just someone in the world out there is going to blink out of life.
Just a bit like Gwendy's button box and the film The Box, even, which I think is probably based on.
I think that is the button. Yes, I guess that just playing with the idea of like, if you can get away with something, will you? It's almost like,
I think you're right. It's the one thing he strives for and has pursued and wanted to be successful at is now tainted.
And there's a little like, was it his talent? Can he take credit? Was it, damn it, I didn't write that.
I was influenced. Completely. So it's the entire experience of writing has been soiled and will be soiled forevermore.
And I guess he's just sort of cursed himself because it sort of doesn't matter to him if it was real or not, because he knows he was willing to make that deal. He said yes. So even if he goes to all the psychiatrists and it's proven that there's no such thing, it's 100% that was in your head, kind of doesn't matter.
I like that. That's good.
It's like, you can argue he was feverish. to be fair, I would argue like when you're feverish and delirious,
they make your best
hallucinating, and you sort of think you're dreaming. You're in a whole nother state. But I know it's a short novel. It can't then detract away from the morality. And Stephen King goes, but he thought he was dreaming. He said, "Doesn't really matter anyway."
No, I did. I like this novel. Yes, I enjoyed this short novella. I did enjoy it again. I feel like I enjoyed it a lot. It wasn't the strongest of the four. Probably, I would have put it third.
Give me an if it bleeds order from worst to best. Oh, you don't like calling things worse. From least enjoyed by Toby to most enjoyed by Toby.
Yeah. At the time, it would have been Harrigan's Phone, Harrigan's Phone, If It Bleeds, Rat, Life of Chuck. But since discussing it and reviewing him, Life of Chuck has moved up to the second position.
Oh.
And then If It Bleeds has moved to the bottom of the stack.
Oh, Holly. How could you?
Although I love Holly.
No, I know.
Yeah, so I would say Harrigan's Phone, Chuck, Rat, Bleeds.
Interesting.
What about you?
So I just really enjoyed this one. It's not its best story. We've literally read it before in Secret Garden, Secret Window. None of the ideas were new, but it doesn't mean he didn't just bring something nice to it. And for me to enjoy it this much, even though I didn't really like the main character, and we are 100% with the main character. Like you said, someone said it feels like this sort of could have fitted in with Skeleton Key or one of his other, like, I guess his older style. And I'm trying to not pine for that. Like you said before, there's people who always just go on about it. And I don't really want to be that person because it's not coming. Well, I thought it wasn't coming back, but here we are.
Yeah.
Agreeing rap. But this just felt like King having some fun, unadulterated fun on his behalf. And even still, I feel like he snuck in some really personal stuff. I think, remember when I said I listened to that interview and they asked him what he was scared of, and he sort of didn't have a sort of boogeyman, but he said sort of, losing the will, losing the ability cognitively, mentally. There's a line in this. And so when our writer starts to fall apart, it sort of comes out of him by not being able to find the right word and obsessing. And I think there's literally a line where there's a bit late at night where he says, do I have Alzheimer's? And I think this is probably something that's happened to him. One of those late, like the difference between, when I, for example, had COVID and I got pretty sick, I was fine with it. I felt rough as hell in the daytime, but I was fine. I'm just going to watch some TV. I can't watch TV. I'm just miserable, but sick, but fine. That same feeling in the dead of night was just a little more scary. Just the thoughts change at nighttime when you can't. The night is long when you can't sleep.
Yes,
and just the sort of thoughts that sneak into your head and take root. Just like the same thought during the day doesn't just take hold and twist you the same way. So I do wonder if he's like had days when he struggled writing that he didn't have when he was young, or he doesn't think he had. So he questions, like, am I losing it? Of course, I think everyone would probably have, any artist, any level, probably questions, whether they're still doing what they used to, whether like that. I wonder if that feeling of, is this any good? Is this rubbish?
Yeah, I thought that was really good. That when because it does jump from explanation to the actual his writing of the novel and bits within the novel that he's putting pen to paper, fingers to typewriter, and it again ties into that procrastination. Is suddenly you can see his mental state start to crumble and crack, and the illness to take hold, because he does start to fixate on the right words in sentences. Type it, delete it, type a new word, delete it. Is it this word? Is it that word? And it's almost that procrastination becomes
in a really destructive way, not in a cool, like, I'm a writer and I strive for the perfect words, but in a destructive way.
Yeah.
Like I said, I listen to a lot of podcasts
undermining himself
about writing, and the amount of times they say the first draft, people saying, like, I will literally put in red, there's a church here, do some research and fill in description of church and then move on. Like, if you don't have it and you're in a flow, that first draft is just everything. I mean, it depends. There's different kind of writers. There are like Stephen King says, you want to be like, I don't know if he says you want to be, but he says for him, he's roughly like 60% done with his first draft. And that's the amount he predicts he's going to edit, for example.
And then you got Gaiman, who will just is the very opposite. He'll write something, he'll almost chuck it in the bin and then rewrite it.
Oh yeah, I've done very little research on Gaiman. He's pure, like, his fun isn't his power is in the post draft. Because there's a really fun bit in this book I noticed where the narrator starts kind of mirroring the fall apart. There's a bit where it says, there's one line that stood out, and it was like, where am I? the lights started to flicker, or maybe I should say stuttered. Like the
mm-hmm.
narrator starts like, not that word, this word.
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
exactly
quite, it's fairly subtle, but it's quite nice.
Yes.
And stuff like that
It's
is
great.
really nice. The sort of reflection
Mm-hmm.
that just sort of made it really, really fun. Yeah, let me see my notes. There's some nice rap wordplay on this, which is quite fun. He
Right.
just starts like hearing the word rat in everything.
Okay.
I can't think of examples, but we take the rat out at night, huh? Like the cat, we take the cat out at night. Okay, they're a bit more playful than that. It's not literally, but there's about 3 or 4. Oh, I'm rat tired tonight, huh? I'm just saying I'm dead tired. Oh, sorry, I thought you said rat. I didn't know.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's after the deal sort of stuff. Yeah.
And I had a little ping off the light because we get another Toomey. Just it doesn't really play anything, and it's not anything like the Toomey I love and know. But there's just a mention of a Toomey, and if you can remember, the Langoliers, probably my favorite. I don't know if I like the character from Langoliers from the novel or the film Langoliers. The actor who plays Toomey is so delightfully over the top.
Yeah,
I want that actor's version of Toomey. I think this is the second time. I think 11/22/63 had a Toomey in it, but I don't know. It's just the name strings through, or it's like it's like that Tarantino thing of like he's a direct relative, but it means nothing because he doesn't do the Toomey that we all love and know.
Yeah.
if you dear listener, go and check out the movie. It's probably on YouTube of the Langoliers, and you are in for an absolute delight.
Yeah.
I guess
classic
or Thai building
made for TV.
You Toby, you quite like to take books on the face value more often than not. Was the rat real for you?
I want to say probably not. And I think no, it's not real, but you nailed it perfectly when you defined it that in his hysteria, in the deal making, he chose to make the deal, and that in itself is a testament to the horror that lies within him that he's ashamed of, and that is the evil that is, ruined him going forward.
There's a lot of evidence. There's so much nods towards it not being real, more than it being real. I think, like the sickness, the toy rat, etc., etc.
What do you think? Do you think it's real?
No, I think he just feared it because in the past he's literally had a breakdown. It's like his mind had to snap to find a way for him to cope and to continue writing the story. It sort of gave him like not a confidence, but it sort of gave him an alternative.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like him it's like that, what's that film? Inception. Like he had to inception himself, whether he really remembered that dream or not. He was like, oh yeah, I've made a deal with the devil. The book's going to be successful, so I can sort of plow through it and finish it, not worrying about if it's going to be perfect.
It's almost setting himself outside himself. It's like, this isn't me now. This is now no longer me writing this book. This is the devil writing this book. I therefore can't get stuck and hung up on all my own insecurities and worries because it's not me writing it anymore. This is how I'm going to finish this book.
Do you ever? It's kind of the thing. Are you ever not able to enjoy something because you're not sure if you're so hyped you don't know if it's going to be good?
For me, on a similar, I don't know if this is similar, but it feels like it's probably the same thing, and to a lesser sense. But when I watch horror films, and I watch a lot of horror films, and especially if they're a franchised horror film, I build attractions to the lead characters. Because in the first one they defeat the big bad, and then they're back in the second one and they defeat the big bad, and I then become fearful of them not surviving, because the whole point of them, I want these people,
sequel.
I want them to survive. Otherwise, I don't want them to be in the sequel because I don't want them to die. I'd rather they just be off and
give them a happy ending.
Yeah, that's what I always strive for. So the Scream films. I spent the whole of the sixth film not enjoying it because I was that's the one before the newest one, worrying that one of the three central characters, Dewey, Gale, or Sydney, were going to die, and I just didn't want them to die because I've watched them for 5 films survive subsequent attacks, and it felt wholly unfair that they should get killed by some random person. And yeah, so I've spent a lot of time worrying about that. I won't spoil if any of them do die, but I didn't enjoy the sixth film for that very reason, because they'd survived 5. I was happy that they would have left it there. I did want another Scream film, but I would have liked it if they didn't bring back the legacy characters. And now we've got the 7th film, and again, I'm worrying about certain characters being off.
No.
And I put off watching it because for that very reason.
It just has to happen. It's like Han Solo. Like the actors probably want their contracts up because it's like, well, and I'll take the money.
Yeah, I think it stems from my first viewing of Nightmare on Elm Street, which again is a Wes Craven film. Alice and Heather Langenkamp being Nancy being the survivors of that franchise, and then I think Nancy survives. And then it's only killed off in the real world version, which is like New Nightmare. But yeah, that probably is the same sort of thing.
But yeah, I guess I don't know. I felt that in God, we've gone so off. I've forgotten my point. Like, I guess I was talking about you can't enjoy something till there's a certain relief, and I guess that's what this writer did to himself. He couldn't knuckle down and enjoy this writing process, not knowing if he was going to snap, I suppose. So he sort of snapped to get the snap out the way. I don't know.
Yeah.
A bit there.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So possibly
it's sort of out there now, and everyone's hyping, but I think it means not as much as people think. That all the rights to all of these have been snapped up.
All these 4 short stories.
I think who's the guy who just did The Whale? Darren Aronofsky has Life of Chuck.
Cool.
Ben Stiller has Rat.
Yeah.
But I'm very aware optioning the rights, everything gets optioned.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Stephen King. People probably optioned it like, I've been wanting to do a King for so long, I will just snag whatever comes. Like, it's like Glastonbury tickets. I'm just hitting refresh till I can get something.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. So everyone's saying I'd love to see Ben Stiller, but I have who would you cast as Drew?
Who would I cast as Drew? Oh, I would cast if you know the Green Mile, the person who plays the evil inmate that stamps on the
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. That's who I would cast as Drew.
Is that because he stamped on a rat?
No, because he's just I don't particularly like him, and I think he's a great actor, but I don't like the character.
I love Sam Rockwell.
And I think he would be great as Drew, because I wouldn't.
Nice.
You don't particularly like Drew, and he can do characters that you don't particularly like really well.
Slimy. I'm going for Michael Shannon. If you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know why he's got that intense rudity. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing a little film of this. I just think I guess I love it when a writer, like a screenwriter, can take something and run with it. Like I said, I felt like The Outsider TV show was probably just enhanced by being a show. And I would hope that this can turn into something more than it is. I still haven't seen Mr. Harrigan's Phone, but you said it's just like, it's spot on. And as a result, it's like interesting and fun, but that thing of there's just no surprises.
Yeah.
But I don't know, this one gets a thumbs up for me. Like I said, it's like it's sort of simultaneously nothing to write home about, but also just really fun to read. I don't know, like it's that thing of it can flip on a dime, King having writers as characters. I'm pretty sure his next one will be, and I'll be like, oh God, I'm sick of this, no more.
Yeah.
An odd little collection. I guess the more I read about these collections, it's like they seem quite higgledy-piggledy. It's just whatever King doesn't have released, smashed together.
Like you said,
to sell.
The post-it note approach.
What's your thoughts on Whole as If It Bleeds? Just wrap up the whole book. Where does this rank as a collection?
It was. I would give it 7 out of 10 stars. It was, on the whole, very readable. There were some nice tales in there, but none of it really whetted my appetite in a way that I was like, "Oh, this is just incredible."
Because I might be wrong, but because I remember at the time you seemed a bit nonplussed by it. I don't know if it was initial disappointment because of the Holly one or. Like sometimes you just finish something and it feels like there's no centerpiece.
Yeah,
I guess like exactly like you just said, there's no one story to cherish. I wasn't Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.